In this lecture, we're going to continue our focus on organization within OneNote by working with sections and section groups. You'll learn how to create sections and section groups. You'll also learn how to move information between your sections and section groups and how to rearrange sections. Before we begin working with our sections and section groups, let me explain what they are. Sections are how you organize your pages. For instance, I have a section called Course Overviews, and within it I have these pages. If I click on Lectures, I've got pages under there as well, so I can divide my information up within my notebook. Now if we come over to the left of my sections, you see I've got an arrow, and this allows me to navigate to what's called the parent section group, because you can take your sections and group them together as well. So if I click on the arrow, it'll take me out to show me that I've got a section group called OneNote. If I click on the arrow again, it takes me to the very beginning of this notebook to show me my sections and the section groups I've set up. So if you have a notebook that's going to contain a lot of information, instead of putting it under one section and having multiple pages go down the side of your screen, you can divide it into sections and also divide those sections into groups to better organize your information. So for instance, on here, I've got my completed courses and my courses. If I click on the section group Completed Courses, it's going to show all the sections for courses that I've completed. Again, the arrow will navigate me back to the parent for that section group or that section. And I can click on my courses, click on OneNote, Course Overview to get back to where I was. So it allows you to keep everything very organized so you're looking at the specific information you need for what you're working on at that moment. And as we begin creating our sections, you'll see how important it is to organize the information into section groups as well. So let's go ahead and navigate to our notebook. This is the one where we had been creating the pages in our last lecture. So what we're going to do now is we're going to organize that information from those pages into sections. And as you can see from the sections, I've got Project 6, Project 3, Project 7, Project 10, 1, and so forth. So what I want to do is I want to create a section for each of my projects and put all the pages pertaining to those projects under it. Now it's really easy to create a section. All you need to do is come up to the top of the middle area here and click on the plus to create a new section. Once you do that, it's going to create the section and highlight the default title so you can create a new title for it. So we're going to go ahead and start creating sections for each of our projects. I'll continue on. See how easy it is? You just click on the plus to create your section. Now you'll see my projects are out of order because I did 4, 6, then 5. To move sections around, all you need to do is click on it and drag it where you want it to go. Now you'll notice above the section tabs I've got a little down arrow, and that's telling me where I'm going to be dropping it if I release there. So it's like my position holder. So if I want it between 4 and 6, click and drop. Okay, so now I've created all the sections for all the projects that I've got going on. And you can see it expand all the way across, and I have to click on the down arrow to see the rest of them. Now that gets a little cumbersome as you're quickly scrolling through your information to look for what you need. So from here, what you like to do is create section groups. And that allows you to take multiple projects or multiple sections and lump them together. So for instance, I've got projects that I've got open and I've got closed projects or projects that I've completed. So that gives me two great section groups to set up. To create a section group, all you need to do is click on one of your sections, do a right click, new section group. And here we're going to go ahead and give it the name of the section group that I'm going to lump my information under. I'm going to create one called Completed Projects. See how easy that is? And now I'm also going to create another one called Open Projects. It still doesn't help me yet because I've still got all my information here. So now what I need to do is move my projects or move my sections into the section group they pertain to. To do that, highlight a section, do a right click, and say Move or Copy. Once you do that, it's going to bring up the Move or Copy dialog box, and from here you choose exactly where you want to move it to. So I'm going to go down to my another notebook, which is where my projects are. And I'm going to come down to my section groups. Now for section 6, we'll say this project is open. So we'll click on the open projects and I'm going to tell it to move it. Now I've got my section 6 here. Click the arrow to go back to my list and I can see I've removed it from here. Let's move project 1 into my completed projects. Go back. And that's how easy it is. All you need to do is do a right click on the section and tell it move or copy. Navigate to where you want to move it to and click move. And you can see as I'm moving the projects off my main page, it's getting easier to see the information that remains and I can see my section groups. So I'll get the rest of these moved. Now another way to move them, now that I can see everything on my screen, is I can drag them into the section group they belong to. So now you can see I've got my completed projects and my open projects. Much easier to visualize the information and see it as I'm going through it. So anytime I'm working on an open project, I can click on the open project section group to see all the projects that I have open. So it's a great benefit to be able to take your information from your notebook and not only divide it up into separate pages, but divide those pages into sections and then also take that information and create section groups. So you don't have this huge notebook that runs page after page after page after page on one section. So now that I've got everything organized between my sections and my section groups, let's go ahead and move our pages around so they fit under the proper projects. So let's go back and go to project 1, and this is where all my information had been. So what I want to do now is I want to move the pages to the correct sections. So the quickest and easiest way, especially if everything is in the same section group, is to take and drag the page to the section it belongs in. You can see it moved it. So again, I'm just dragging it to the section it belongs to. Now for project 2, it's under the other list, so what I want to do is I want to move this into the other section group. So I'm going to do a right click and I'm going to tell it to move or copy. I'm going to come down and expand out open projects and click on project 2 and I'm going to say move. Now if I come over to open projects, go to project 2, there's the page that I had moved. Now here I've got multiple pages that need to move to project 2, and instead of moving them separately like I did with the last page, I can do a shift click to highlight all the pages, do a right click, tell it to move or copy. I'm going to navigate down, expand out, go to project 2 and tell it to move. Now if I go to project 2, there are my pages. And you'll see that it left them as subpages just like they were in the previous section, so it kept the information the way I needed it. Now remember, if you want to move the sections all around, you can do that by just dragging them. So if I wanted to put them in order of importance, I could drag them by just clicking on it and dragging it to where it needs to go. So I can put things in the order I need them based upon their importance. So let me show you another example of how I've organized my information into sections and section groups. If I come over to my Microsoft notebook, you'll see I've got a page I created my table of contents for document links. But I've got my hardware section group, my software section group, and my storage section group. So if I click on software, it's going to give me all the sections for different types of software I have from Microsoft. And then my pages are going to give me all my page information for it as well. If I come back out, I come over to hardware, it's going to give me my information for the hardware I have. So it's much easier than having to scroll through all kinds of tabs or all kinds of pages, because your information, like we had seen, as you get more and more tabs across the top or sections, It's not going to show them all across the screen, so you're going to have to click multiple times to get to the information you need. Same thing with pages. As you get more and more pages, you're going to be scrolling farther and farther down your list to see the information. So now that you understand how you can organize your information within OneNote, within the sections, section groups, pages, and so forth, let's move on to creating content for our OneNote. In our next lecture, we'll focus on taking notes.